What's the best loophole you've ever discovered? My brother got free parking for pretty much his entire time at university. It was that golden period when the pay parking kiosks were able to accept credit cards, but before they were actually connected. They'd read a card and check it against a locally stored list of band numbers, and once a month the meter maid would download the transactions, process them, and update the blacklist. My brother found that they'd accept those prepaid gift cards if they were backed by Visa or MasterCard, but couldn't check the available balance, so he'd buy one, use the balance up on whatever, then use the card for parking until the end of the month when it'd get processed, found to not have funds, and banned. Rinse and repeat. Guy saved probably $2,500 over his degree. That's a solid hustle. Your brother really figured out a loophole in the system. Using those prepaid cards like that is clever. I can see how it worked out well for him during college. Free parking is a big help. It's funny how some little tech mishap can lead to someone saving a lot of money. Must have felt pretty good rolling into campus without worrying about parking fees. In university, I didn't have my own printer. Had to swipe my student ID to pay to print anything on the library's printer. Charge something like 10 cents per page. I would go and select the document name off of the touch screen, then swipe my card and it would print as well as charge me a count. I discovered that if I gave my document a really long name, the computer didn't know what to sew with it. So instead of going to the queue, it just bypassed the pay screen entirely and printed. That kind of reminds me of when I had to print my stuff in college. I didn't have my own printer either, so I'd go to the lab. It was a hassle, waiting in line and paying. I never thought about tricking the system like that, though. But I get it, sometimes you just gotta find a way to make things easier for yourself. Clever move on your part. Not mine, but many years ago a woman was attending college in Texas and paying out-of-state tuition. She found out that if you were a business owner in the state you could get in-state tuition. She spent a few bucks to file for a business and saved gobs. That's an interesting story. It shows how people sometimes find clever ways to manage their finances. Setting up a business just for the benefit of in-state tuition is a unique move. It's a reminder that there are often unexpected paths to achieve goals, and sometimes a little research can lead to big savings. Everybody's just trying to make things work. Discovered that my high school PE teacher graded on improvement. You took a skills test at the beginning of each unit, then one at the end of the unit, and your grade was based on how much you improved. I was not the most gifted athletically, always got CS in PE. Before this, so I would tank the opening test, then perform my usual mediocrity at the end, but my improvement was awesome and I became an A student the last semester of high school PE. It's interesting how grading can change the whole vibe of a class. I remember a similar experience with a math teacher who focused on progress. It really helped me see that learning isn't just about being the best from the start. Just putting in the effort and seeing where you improve can make a big difference in motivation. It's cool you ended up with an A when you didn't expect it. Parking at the hospital, the pay machine wasn't working, so I drove to the barrier and pressed the button to speak to the attendant security. A few seconds later, without a word being exchanged in either direction, the barrier opened. This was early on in my dad's hospital stay of about 9 months. I didn't try paying again, just pressed the button at the exit barrier. It's interesting how some little things happen when you're dealing with bigger issues. I remember a similar situation when a friend was visiting a family member in the hospital. The stress was high, and dealing with parking just added to it. They ended up having to talk to security too, and it was just a relief when things worked out without fuss. Sometimes, you just go with what happens. I didn't find this loophole myself, but my friend did. A few years back, an online store had this promotion where whoever spent the most money over a month would get free round-trip airplane tickets to anywhere in the world. My friend, who's a fucking genius, found that one thing you could buy on the site was a gift certificate. So he bought a $25 gift certificate and kept spending it on another $25 gift certificate. So he ended up spending $25 on round-trip tickets to Australia. That's an interesting story. Your friend's approach was pretty clever. Using that loophole to turn a small investment into plane tickets must have felt like a win. It's a reminder that sometimes the simplest ideas can lead to great rewards. Getting to Australia for just $25 sounds like an adventure. The local radio always have a contest where you call when they play same artist back to back so you can win a prize. Then I learned they had a Now Playing, an Up Next feature on their website. My girlfriend that time would start calling in before second song even came on. Won a ton prizes including laptops. Sounds like a smart strategy. Your girlfriend really knew how to play the game. It's kind of cool how you both figured out the trick to winning. Those contests can be tough sometimes, but having that inside info definitely gave you an edge. I bet the prizes made it all worth it. It's nice to have those fun memories together. Back when soda companies would have promotions on the underside of the bottle caps, I could tilt the soda bottles just right so I could find winners. During many promotions, I paid for one initial bottle of soda, a get a free bottle winning one, then continually searched and found those never having to pay for a soda. That's a clever little trick. I remember a friend who did something similar with scratch-off tickets. He'd buy one, win a little, and always keep scratching. Eventually, it became part of our hangouts, just sitting around, hoping for a big win. Never hit anything major, but it was fun to dream about it. Sometimes, the game itself is more entertaining than the prize. They cottoned on pretty quickly, but a few years back, I managed to purchase some buy one get one free meals from Tesco that were also yellow stickered. The system hadn't been updated to remove the offer, which meant I ended up effectively being paid to take the food home. For example, I bought 2 ready meals that were originally priced at £2 each. Normally, they would have cost £2 total with the bog-off offer, but since they were further reduced to something like 40p each, the full promotion still applied. When I scanned them, the total came to 80p, but the system also refunded me £2. That's a solid little hack you pulled off. It's funny how those systems can slip up sometimes. Getting food for free, or even being paid to take it, feels like a win. I've had a similar experience at a grocery store where a discount didn't apply right, and I ended up with more than I expected without spending much. It's nice when those little moments happen. The ball machine at the driving range would give you a bucket of balls and your token back if you put enough backspin on the token when inserting it. Basically could go to the range for free whenever I wanted. That sounds like a solid setup. I remember a friend who discovered a similar trick at the local arcade with games. He figured out how to time the plays just right and ended up playing for hours without spending much. It was a nice little hack for those slow weekends. Plus, we got to enjoy some snacks while gaming. Good times, really. Free cable TV once lived on a property in one of 2 homes that shared the same mailbox address. One month I got behind on my cable bill and they came out to disconnect me and disconnected my neighbor's service instead. Neighbor soon called me to ask if my service was out and I said, no. There was a big football game on that day that they had planned to watch and they were bummed. A friend of theirs, who happened to work for a different cable company, was visiting and asked my permission to splice a cable between the 2 houses so they could get service from mine and I agreed. Took him about 20 minutes and they were back in business in time to watch their game. Once I'd figured out the reason for the original disconnect, I explained it to my neighbors, who then stopped paying their cable bill on purpose. Cable company sent out a bucket truck only to discover that their cable was already disconnected, and went away satisfied. We then had free cable in both houses for the next 3 years that I lived there, with both of us having been officially disconnected. That's a pretty chill story. It's funny how things worked out with the cable mix-up. Your neighbors must have been relieved when they got to watch that game after the quick fix. And the whole free cable situation for 3 years is just plain luck. I guess sometimes you just find yourself in odd circumstances that end up being kind of entertaining. Just goes to show how a little creativity can solve problems. We figured out that on our country's biggest website for takeout food that if you go all the way to the payment screen, then click the back button on the browser, not the website, enter a tip for the driver, and then proceed with the process, you only pay the tip and the order still gets delivered. We did this twice and then the glitch was patched. That sounds like a sneaky move. I guess it's one of those things where you find a little trick and it works for a bit. It didn't last long, though. It's crazy how quickly these glitches get fixed. You think you're clever for a moment, then it's all gone. Kind of reminds you that nothing good lasts forever. In college, the local Buffalo Wild Wings would give out like 6 free wings if you did their online survey. I found out they didn't really put a limit on how many times you could do it, and I just so happened to work during the time that the cafeteria was open for Sunday dinner. I had Buffalo Wild Wings damn near every Sunday because I would get 6 free wings and something else. I was severely disappointed when I came back next year and the deal was gone. That's a solid hustle for free food. I mean, who wouldn't take advantage of that, right? Eating wings every Sunday sounds like a good routine. It's always a bummer when a good deal disappears. Makes you appreciate those little wins while they last. You probably had your favorites by the end of it. Guess you had to switch up your game for the next year. When I was in high school, I applied for a summer job with the county. As part of the unbiased application process, each applicant was asked to take an intelligence test. The test consisted of about 80 questions. Each question was 4 or 5-line drawings, and you had to put an X in the box next to the one that didn't belong. Pretty easy. I happened to notice, though, that the test paper was 2-part, which is 2 sheets of paper that are attached together back to back with a sheet of carbon paper in between. I could peel the sheets apart and look inside. The second sheet just had a bunch of boxes printed on it, and I could see from the first few questions that I'd answered that the excess I'd marked ended up in the printed boxes on the second sheet thanks to the carbon paper. So, I did all of the questions with obvious answers, and if I was unsure, I just peeled the paper apart, noted where the box was printed on the second sheet, and made sure I got it right. Of course, I got 100%. I figure that if you can cheat on an intelligence test, you're pretty smart. I remember a time in school when we had to take a standardized test. It was a mix of easy and tricky questions. The kid next to me noticed he could see my answers by leaning over. So, he started copying them, thinking he'd ace it. I ended up with a decent score, and he got a surprise when he compared answers later. Sometimes, shortcuts don't work the way you think they will. This was completely unintentional but still a hilarious loophole. I wanted to cosplay Lois Lane at a local con. I printed up a Daily Planet press badge with a picture of the actress who played Lois Lane in the Smallville TV show. I copied Lois's outfit in the Superman animated series and had a friend with me dressed as Jimmy Olsen. We went around interviewing cosplayers as a bit, which got a lot of chuckles, and we met some cool folks. Some DC Comics cosplayers even tracked us down to get pictures. However, completely by accident, we walked past a panel room with a sign that said, "Press only." A board staff member was by the door. When he saw us, he waved us in. We were giggling, but decided fuck it, let's go. The panel room was where the guest celebrities were answering press questions and promoting upcoming projects before doing meet and greets and the like. We ended up spending most of the day in that room listening to Peter Dinklage, Alan Tudyk, and a bunch of other people chat about what they were currently working on. We didn't ask any questions because we didn't want to get caught, but it was a lot of fun. Would do again. That sounds like a fun experience. Just trying to cosplay and ending up in a press room is wild. Meeting those celebrities while just having a good laugh with friends must have made it even better. It's cool how things can turn out unexpectedly in a light-hearted way. Sometimes, going with the flow leads to memorable moments, and it sounds like you all had a blast pretending to be press. There was a lottery at a town fair, and you would walk up to a table to check if you won anything. It was full of prizes gifted by local businesses for charity. Every prize was pre-linked to a ticket with a list. When I handed mine over, the lady said with a big smile the big prize wasn't gone yet while she checked our numbers. I guess she shared this bit of information because most of the prizes were already gone at that point. It was an all-in holiday in Ibiza. I figured because the table was already almost empty, there couldn't be that many tickets left either. I went back to the ticket booth to buy all the remaining tickets, and said you're very welcome to the ticket seller, who thanked me extensively for my generosity. I went on holiday to Ibiza with my wife, then GF, that summer for $140. That's a pretty cool story. It's nice when local events have prizes that really matter. Buying all those tickets and winning that trip to Ibiza must have felt like a good gamble. It's funny how something like a fair can lead to unexpected experiences. Hope you and your girlfriend had a great time there. Sometimes, it's the small things that turn into great memories. I can't remember when it happened, but it was years ago. I think it was Nestia, or some other tea, but if you bought a case of tea, then there was a coupon on the box for a free case, except it was on every case, so now you have case number 2 and another free case coupon. All the tea could be had. That reminds me of when my friend got into an endless loop of buying snacks. He found a deal where if you bought one bag, you'd get a coupon for another. So he just kept buying bags and racking up coupons. Eventually, he had more snacks than he knew what to do with. We ended up giving a lot away, but it was a fun little adventure. Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed. Love.